Sahanavavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. So we repeat the values that we have already learned. I will say and you repeat after me. And this time we will little bit, now that she has, she starts the class with little music. I love it. So I will also do it in a certain tune. So we can, you can try to follow me, right?
Yeah. Okay.
Amanitvamadam bhedvam. Should I write it?
Please.
It'll be easier?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's so hard.
Okay, it's hard.
Like Dutch.
Yeah. It's like Dutch. Yes, exactly. I can understand how lost one could be. So what we have seen up to now is Amma Nitvam. So very quickly, what does it mean? Just one word. We don't need long.
Respect.
Lack of demanding respect, right? Not demanding respect from others. Adambitvam. Not pretending, not exaggerating, not putting up a face which is not true, right? Adambitvam. Ahimsa. Not hurting, non-violence, right? Both at the level of mind, thoughts, and actions and speech, and towards a human being, animals, plant kingdom, everybody, right? Amanitvam, adambitvam, ahimsa, kshanti. Accommodation, right? And when we accommodate, we understand that there are different kinds of people, and the act of accommodation remains the same, but the responses are different depending upon whether the person that you are trying to accommodate is in denial, or is a defiant person, or is trying to change but is unable to change, or changing but at a slow pace, right? So that we have seen. And what we have also seen most importantly is that not only others are in denial, at times we ourselves are in denial, right? It's very important. And we ourselves are defiant and unable to change the way we would like to change. So this is something which belongs to not only others, but also to us. And we can also accommodate ourselves, right, in our limitations. So, Kshantihi, Arjavam. Straightforwardness, right? So alignment between what you think, what you speak, and what you do. So there is no disconnect in all three. Arjavam, Acharyopasanam.
Honoring the teacher.
Honoring, having a certain attitude, a certain trust in the teacher, where the teaching can flow. If there is less resistance, and if the teacher knows, the more you open yourself up, the more you can actually take. Teacher has really not... The only thing that is good for teacher is the teacher feels inspired. If the teacher sees that you are listening with an open mind and you are ready to absorb and you are eager to learn, right? But your attitude towards the teacher is not like, oh, you still keep having to surrender, but that openness will allow you to absorb the teaching better, right? So Acharyopasanam. Acharyopasanam.
So it's Y-O.
So actually it is, Sanskrit words they have a rule called Sandhi. When two words come together, they create a certain operation and they change the form. So the real word is, there are two words, Acharya and Upasanam. And Acharya means the teacher, and Upasana means like looking up to the teacher, or opening up to the teacher, and so that you can receive. So that is, but this akara and ukara, this is a vowel sandhi in Sanskrit. Now that you are asking this question, a and u becomes o, acharyopasanam. Achar, this is the sandhi, two words coming together, vowel sandhi. Okay, acharyopasanam, shaucham. Shaucham. Okay, shaucham. What is shaucham? Cleanliness, and cleanliness means external cleanliness and internal cleanliness. And in internal cleanliness, we saw three things. What are the three things that we saw that we need to clean up? One is self-centeredness. The second is self-criticism. Improving your self-talk with yourself and not constantly seeing yourself as inadequate. These are all the ashaucham, uncleanliness, that we need to clean up. And the third is jealousy. So this we have to recognize in ourselves, and we need to undo it, and we talked about how to do it, so we talked about it in length. So I don't want to go, but I just want to remind you what all we have studied so far. Right? So, acharyopasanam, shaucham, then we saw sthiryam. And sthiryam means perseverance. And perseverance means a constant study of Vedanta, inculcating the values, paying attention to that. Then it also means doing karma yoga, doing action as you're offering to this grand order, because you are benefiting so much from works of so many people. So it's your responsibility also to give your best in whatever you are doing. That whole attitude is attitude of karma yoga. And then we have also seen emotional maturity, taking care of your emotions which do not allow you to enjoy the freedom, like fears or pain or anger. If it is unprocessed, it keeps interfering. So one needs to clean that all up. That is also part of perseverance. And finally, perseverance also means we are all living with a paradigm, me versus the world. So I feel small, and I always want to protect myself against this vast world, which has sometimes people who I am threatened by, people that I don't like, or events that occur which surprise me, and I find myself helpless. So I'm always at guard. So this particular ninja attitude that Swamiji was talking never allows you to relax, because you're always waiting what is going to come from which direction, and then you always have to be ready to fight it. So that attitude has to go, and you have to relax in the trust of the order. So this is why, this is what this particular phenomena, that you find your connection with the universe, and that you are able to trust the universe, and you are able to relax the universe, in the universe, is what we call bhakti. And there is a specific value which will come, bhakti, where I'll talk about a lot more. And that is very, very important. The deeper connection, largening of your heart, seeing the world as a non-threatening place. This is all very important part of learning Vedanta. So that is something which is going to come, but perseverance means not in one area. It's not like I keep listening to the class. I have to look at so many different areas of my being, and I need to be persistent in constantly trying to evolve and to make progress, right? And that takes time, and be patient, right? Sthiryam, Atma Vinigraha. And this is what we talked about as mastery of mind. And what mastery of mind means is nobody can control mind because nobody knows what the next thought is going to be. So if you are going to give yourself a task that I'm never going to be angry again, or that you are not going to be sad again, you are in a impossible situation because you never know when sadness will surface. And then you will again beat yourself up and say, no, I'm not spiritual enough. And all the learnings that I have done is not working for me. So that means what is very, very important, Atma Vinigraha means the starting of mastery of the mind is, I cannot control the mind, but I can master the mind. And how can I then master the mind? Well, thought comes without my permission. It doesn't ask me, it just comes, and sometimes I'm surprised by my own thoughts. Just when you think that you are, on top of things, something will happen and you'll feel, oh my God, I feel as helpless as before, right? So this is something which happens and it keeps surprising you. So what is mastery of mind? To understand that thoughts come, but what you do with the thoughts is in your hand. That is your free will, use of your free will. So there are 3 things that you can choose to do with any thought that arises, and there you have to use a discrimination, right? What is appropriate for that particular thought? So what we saw is some thoughts you can just let them pass by because they last for only a few seconds, and you don't need to really be obsessed with correcting every thought. And if you don't give them fuel, they will just go and they can't touch you, right? So that is one thing that you do, but not the whole emotional, whole mental life. You can just say, just watch your thoughts. You can't do that. Why? Because there are some other thoughts which keep recurring, and you have a deep orientation, and they decide how you feel, and they decide your sense of well-being. So if you're constantly afraid, or if you have this orientation of distrust, you can't just say, oh, it's only a thought, let it pass by, because it's a recurring thought. And it keeps coming back, and it keeps presenting itself in so many different situations. Your mind creates this scenario of fear, or scenario of distrust, or scenario of feeling that life is not treating me well, or I don't get what I deserve. This is an orientation which keeps recurring. So you can't just now say that let me just see it pass by. That requires a correction. This is why these values, right? All these values are actually talking about correction in your thinking. If you have this tendency to demand respect from others, you have to recognize and you have to correct it. If you have a tendency to exaggerate your importance, you have to recognize that, hey, there is some lack in you which makes you, exaggerate and show yourself in some great light. And that needs a correction. So many of these values, if you recognize that you have some of these tendencies, then actually it gives you an opportunity for correction. Then there are some other thoughts which require cultivation. So what we saw most significantly is that empathy is part of human heart, a human mind. And what is empathy? That not only I recognize my own pain and I effortlessly try to do something to free myself from that pain, but I also recognize pain in others. And if my empathy is working well, then what? I'm not indifferent to that other person. That it creates a certain disturbance in me when I see somebody else suffering, and I do what I can, right? Reach out. Everything I may not be able to, it's not like you are able to help everybody in every situation, but you are not indifferent to it. And in any given situation, if you feel that something can be done by you, you do that thing happily. Just as you do it for yourself effortlessly, you can reach out to others effortlessly too. Now, what we also, and that particular acting on your empathy and not justifying by saying, oh, it's not my problem, let him handle it. So that particular, it's converting empathy into compassion. Empathy is a feeling, the signals that your brain gives. Compassion is an act. So when you have not interfered with this empathy feeling and you let it come out in form of an action, you become a compassionate human being. So these attitudes, right, need to be cultivated. It's never that easy, right? Because we are so self-absorbed in our own life, and we have a tendency to say, okay, now let me put my life in order. Where am I going to, help somebody else? Neither I have time nor I have a capacity to make this effort. Let them handle their own life. That is creating a certain indifference towards the people around you, and that's not really healthy. So you have to cultivate. Cultivate means every time your mind feels that you have to help, go ahead and make an action. Make an action which honors your thinking. So that is what we call compassionate. So some thoughts can be cultivated. Non-judgmentalness, right? You have a tendency to judge everything. Then if you want to become, that requires correction. But suppose you have an open mind, you need to cultivate that. So that is very, very important. So this is what we call Atma Vinigraha. Sthiryam Atma Vinigraha. The next one is Indriyartheshu Vairagyam. How much we have seen, my God. What is Indriyartheshu Vairagyam?
Seeing the object as it is.
Excellent. Right? Seeing the objects as they are, generally what happens is we have a coloring and we see the objects not as they are but through our own coloring. And we examined two big things with reference to which our coloring is very strong. One is money, our relationship with money. Either we are chasing it and making it the final goal of our lives, or we are rejecting it as material things, and both are superimpositions. Right? So somebody was saying, and it's really, really beautiful. I was also surprised how come Ayurveda treatments here are so reasonably priced. You go to any place in Kerala, it is 4 times or 10 times more expensive. Then somebody told me that some person, they wanted to do, I think you told me, I don't know who, you told me, right? That they wanted to do some community work. So they built the hospital. So why should that person have to do it? The person doesn't even know who's coming, who's going. But the person is not indifferent. Goes through that effort. Imagine doing one thing requires so much effort. Building a hospital, finances, management, dealing with builders, so many organizations, so many things have to be done for totally unknown people. Why would anybody do it? So they do it because they have resources, and that resources they don't only want to use for themselves, but they want to share. This is a beautiful thing.
They also want to set up the same thing in Goa.
My God,
Yeah,
now
you're
he's
building,
telling
yeah.
me that he's wanting to set up the same thing in Goa. So what it then means is, Vairagyam does not mean that you, if that person did not earn money, and if that person did not go out of their way to create this facility, would you be able to take advantage of that? You're happy that you don't have to spend so much, but somebody else has spent that money, and somebody else has been generous. We don't see the full picture. So, please don't think money is bad. Why am I saying all this? Only when you have resources, you can do noble things. And you can reach out to others. There are people who build hospitals, education centers, helping all the poor people to find some employment. So many people work for it. So that means how you use money is important, or how you view the money. Neither it is the final answer to your well-being, nor it is bad. It has its own rightful value. And when your mind is able to recognize it without either exaggerating or depreciating your objective. You have a question? No. Oh, you're just
I was
okay.
just
So
thinking aloud. But
okay.
May I ask a question?
You want to ask a question?
If you have a resource,
Yeah.
two questions in that equation.
Yeah.
You have a finite resource
Yes.
and you have plenty.
Yeah.
Now, people will give up that resource in terms of getting fame, recognition, status.
Yes.
If you get into trouble giving up that, then obviously that is wrong as well.
Sorry, I'm not able to hear very well.
Yeah, it's very
You're able to hear?
noisy. Hardly.
Yeah.
Question is, some people will do that to say they're doing this dharma
Yeah.
to get punya.
Yes.
Is
Okay.
there a degree of getting?
Excellent. Good. Very good. Good question. Right? So, in 17th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, this question is. Sorry, I'm. Okay, so in Bhagavad Gita, in the 17th chapter, there is a beautiful thing where Lord Krishna uses a framework of what we call sattva, rajas, and tamas. So then even dhanam, which is an act of giving, is divided into three categories: sattvic, rajasic, and tamasic. So what is a sattvic dhanam? Right? So the sattvic dhanam is if you need something, and dhanam need not be financial. It can be your time, it can be your attention, it can be providing some services. It's not just giving money, right? But if somebody is in need and you are sensitive, it invokes in you. You're not indifferent to it. And it invokes in you some feeling that I can reach out, I am able to reach out. And you reach out, that is called sattvic dhanam. Because where is the focus? The focus is not on you, the focus is on the beneficiary. So that is sattvic dhanam. Now, if somebody gives dhanam, and the focus is how do I get the recognition of being recognized as somebody who's a philanthropist, or somebody who's a very generous person, and I want to command respect from others. And I want my name everywhere, and I want to become famous as a person who is really a very kind human being. Then, yes, I'm helping, but my intention is more myself. So then it becomes rajasic dhanam. But what is interesting is, then I will first explain and then I'll tell you something more. And then suppose you're helping somebody and the person needs your help, and under the pretext of helping him, if you want to make that person weak and then you want to gain control over the person, then that is tamasic dhanam. So that itself.
Also giving the wrong things.
Yeah, to
times,
wrong
also
things.
tamasic.
Yeah, wrong things to wrong people at wrong time. What does it mean? Suppose somebody is alcoholic and they come and cry in front of you and ask for money, and you give them money, they are going to, spend it on alcohol and perhaps abuse somebody from their family. That is tamasic dhanam. So who do you give to? You have to find a deserving recipient.
So in every action you do, you have to use your intellect.
Absolutely. This is something which is the whole Bhagavad Gita is like that. So it's not about, just Lord Krishna is saying this, so therefore I just follow him. No. Whole Gita is something which makes you think and engage in life deeply. And you have to use your intellect, your discerning capacity, your discrimination to figure out what is the right response. And while you're responding, you also have to look at yourself and see your real motivations and see where you're coming from.
So you could become a very, very bad self-critic if you aren't a good
No,
intellect.
and that is also something which is very important, right? So all this is already taught that while you are changing, we have to avoid self-critique and not say, oh, I'm so mean, right? We can't label ourselves like that. What we have to see is that human mind is like that unless you correct it. So then what happens is that you don't put too much burden or too many labels onto yourself, and you still do what needs to be done, but you can evolve because you have come to this earth for evolving and not just for hanging around. So it becomes an alert life, it becomes a mindful life. And in fact, the nobler you become, more at peace you become, very naturally. Because the universe gives you the feedback for all these effort that you are making.
As Christian, if your intention is innocent and good, however, the visual somehow created very wrong in a way, is this okay? I mean, it's still good because it's good intention. You give somebody money, however, you have really good intention. However, this person used it very different way. You was not aware of it. You believe the person is really good and tell the truth. However, you didn't know, but this person sort of treat you a little bit and they use different way. In that case, is it the result is bad? However, I wasn't aware of it.
Yeah. So, did you understand the question? Yeah.
I could hear.
You couldn't hear. Okay. So, what she is asking is that every time we need not, we cannot find out exactly how that act of giving is going to pan out, right? So, sometimes somebody may use it inappropriately, even though your intention was good, and you didn't know how that person was going to use it. So, then what happens? I think that's the question. Yeah. So, so what happens is that you're not expected to know everything about everything. Why? Because the reality about life is every decision that you have made, did you know everything about that? It's impossible. There are always unknown factors, no matter how much you try. Right? So you fell in love and you got married, and then you didn't know how it is going to turn out in 5 years from now. So many, everything. You took this job, you didn't know, you thought it was your dream job, and then your boss was a disaster. So what it means is nobody, this is why, please understand, this Bhagavad Gita is about life. And life means it's practical. It's not some extreme rules that we are talking about. And what it means is, if you recognize that you can at no given point in time know everything in that given situation, in any decision that you have made so far, not only in an act of giving, there are always unknown variables. And you have to take a call. You can't wait for you to know everything, because you'll never know everything about everything. It's not possible. So what does it mean then? What it means is, but that also doesn't mean that you don't take your own precaution and you analyze the situation to the extent that is possible by you. Do you understand? So our mind works in extreme. Either I control everything and I know everything, or I just leave it and say, okay, now as long as I have good intention, it doesn't matter. Do you understand? The mind moves from one thing to the other. It never sees the wisdom. Yes, you have to, in any given situation, you are given some ability to assess. Some variables are known to you. You can't be so lax and say, okay, as long as my intention is good, right? It doesn't matter. Nor you can fall in that extreme, nor you can fall in the extreme that I want to control everything and I want to make sure that none of my decisions have any flaw. It's not possible. But what you can do is, in this given situation, there is a possibility that I can understand it better. So at least to that extent, right? I have to use, my capacity to think and make sure that I do my reasonable check. Reasonable. And then if it doesn't turn out, well, anyway, I had a good intention, which has a different result than when I was completely lax about it. So it's all in degrees. Nothing is black and white.
If you want to put the catalog of Papam, is good. If you have a catalog of good deed or bad deed, what is gonna are referring to? Because your intention was good.
So I didn't understand. What?
Papam, for example.
Huh?
Is it good deed or is it bad deed? Because your intention was good. However, your perhaps little lack of intelligence or ignorance, then you will fall into, which catalog will go there, like a punya papa, for example, good deed or bad deed. Just curious.
So this is one thing that we need to recognize, that there are nuances within nuances within nuances within nuances, and this is why there is a beautiful verse in Bhagavad Gita which says, Gahana karmano gatihi. We have thousands of variables, like if I do this, what will happen? If I do this, what will happen? There is only one person who can actually answer the question, and that is Ishvara. If you pretend that you know exactly the answer to every question, about details about if you do this action, what will be the outcome? If you do this action, what will be the outcome? Then you become Ishvara. What we have to know is something which is important. Neither I can be lax and just be romantic about things, because that's a misguided mind. Nor I can be so wanting to control everything and want to know everything, because it's an impossibility with reference to human mind. That is wisdom. And even within that, what I can do, I try my best to be vigilant. I try my best to take some precautions. I try my best. And this is common sense, right? When you start a business, there are so many startups. Does every person who starts a startup know what is going to happen to that startup 5 years from now? It's impossible. Some is going to shut down, somebody is going to become unicorn, somebody is going to go public and make millions, somebody is still going to struggle after 5 years. They're always unknown. Now, what are you going to do? Because there is unknown, let me not do anything. Lazy mind, fearful mind. or I want to just control, that I will definitely get there. There are always surprises on the way. So I had a friend, right? He is a very brilliant person from a top management school in India, and he was working in a very successful executive, right? And he did extremely well. So he says, I've been thinking about starting my own business for many years, and finally he took a leap. And he said, okay, now in 2019, he said, okay, I'm going to start my own business now. And he thought that all the conditions were conducive. And then came COVID, everything shut down. And who knew it? Do you understand? I mean, all this control is just an illusion. I mean, please, these are simple things. Our mind is not connected to the realities. This is the biggest problem. We live in our own world, of our own created world. If you're observing how the world works, and if you're thinking about what Gita is talking about, you'll become naturally wise, sensitive, a clever human being. So, just 1 minute. So, now, the same person, right, now, this particular venture was a great failure. Not because of him, but it was just the environment. So many unknown variables which just showed up and he didn't know what to do. Now, can he make a rule that now that I cannot know everything about everything, I'll never do anything next time? No. Or can the person say, okay, now, now let me not take any risk at all. Let me just continue my job, and then, at least I will free myself. How are you going? Even if you take up that job, and if that person is also going through COVID, they are also going to fire you. So that means there is nobody, no matter which decision you take, there is no 100% certainty in life. But that doesn't mean you stop. So you have to apply yourself, be intelligent about it, be clever about it, and then navigate. As situations arise, navigate intelligently. This is why, what do rivers teach us? Rivers start their journey from glaciers in Himalayas. I'm talking about India. In Europe, maybe they start from Alps. I don't, So, but they start from Himalayas and they have to reach Bay of Bengal. And nobody gave them a map. There is no Google map. But they start their journey. And then what happens? Dams come. Big rocks, boulders come. What do rivers do? Intelligently find their way around. They keep flowing. Neither they are intimidated, nor they said, oh, I did not expect this to happen. Or expectation that the whole path will be smooth and totally without any obstacles. This is human mind. You just create your own scenarios and you're caught in that. You don't see what the world is about. That's why we keep struggling. So therefore, what is important is things will come up. And what is the intelligent person? Then yeah, you are able to navigate, you are able to negotiate, you are able to overcome. And then what? Ultimately, you have to find, every river finds its way to the ocean. This is life journey. Right? It can't say that, oh, from the glaciers, I know exactly what is going to happen. No river knows. But when things happen, how do you manage that? That is very important. So this is why what is really very important in Indriyartheshu Vairagyam is that you have proper relationship with money, proper neither it is an answer to everything, nor it is something that you have to reject. And if you have access, do it with a good heart. See that how important it is. The universe is so generous. So many of your needs are provided and nobody is asking, does air charge you anything? Does the sun charge you anything? Do the trees charge you anything? The human being who owns the tree, who thinks who owns the tree may charge you for, and the trees don't charge anything. They just give out. Waters. They all just bless you. There is so much generosity in this universe. It's all given to me. And in Bhagavad Gita, Lord Krishna says, the person who keeps grabbing and taking everything and doesn't give back is like a thief. Because you just are only interested in taking, and you don't have enough generosity to give back. So, this is so every resource that you have, respect it. Money is one example. Don't waste it away. And use it meaningfully. And it will bless you. So, and I just wanted to add a little bit more. Yesterday I talked about Lakshmi and I talked about the finances, but in our culture there is Ashtalakshmi. There are 8 different kinds of wealth that you can have. One is Dhana Lakshmi, which is the financial wealth. The second is Dhanya Lakshmi. What is Dhanya Lakshmi? Dhanya Lakshmi is your ability to eat good, healthy, fresh foods. It's a wealth. How many people in our civilization, they don't have time for cooking because they are too busy. So everything is frozen, prepared God knows by whom, packed by whom, put in the refrigerator. You come home and you put it in microwave and you heat it. So you have lot of finances, but you have no blessing of Dhanya Lakshmi.
How is that spelled?
You want to know all these 8 Lakshmis?
Yes.
Okay, good. I'm happy. Okay, so Dhana Lakshmi is normal finances. Dhanya is the food, fresh foods, nourishing foods. That also requires blessings, otherwise it doesn't come. So, both in Ayurveda, so even food, Lord Krishna says there is sattvic food, there is rajasic food, and then there is tamasic food. So what is sattvic food? The sattvic food is something which is healthy for you. It nourishes your body. It is something which is going to enhance your wealth. So in Sanskrit, annam is food and aushadham is medicine. And sometimes they are used interchangeably. So what does it mean? If you eat healthy, it is almost like taking medicine. You don't need any supplements. Because it is complete. What nature produces for you through vegetables and grains and through fruits and everything is enough for you to to live healthy and without any disease. So Dhanya is Lakshmi. Every time, this is why before eating we always do prayer. And what is that gratitude for this fresh food that is in my plate? Because people have worked for it to make it happen. And even if I myself prepared it, it's good that I have been given that time to devote to something which is important. So Dhanya Lakshmi. Then you have the third is Griha Lakshmi. And what it means is a nice, pleasant place to stay. That itself is a blessing.
How is that spelled, please?
Griha. Sorry, my handwriting is terrible. Nobody understands what I write, but I love to write. So, Griha, Gruha.
Thank you.
So, Griha Lakshmi is a nice home. A nice home, one thing could be just physically pleasant home. Right? Imagine if you have a little garden where you can see flowers, or you can see little mountains, or you can see trees, or you can see the river or the ocean. That is amazing. Very, very rejuvenating, very inspiring. That's a resource. That's a blessing from Lakshmi. But in addition to a physical home, a warm, loving home is also a blessing of Lakshmi. Where human beings feel nurtured, they don't feel judged, they don't feel rejected, where they feel respected. If you can create a home like that, where there is no manipulation, where there is no feeling of lack of love, where there is trust, where there is support for each other, not criticism, that is wealth. Everybody who has come from a broken home spends long years to heal oneself. So what it means is, if you are born or if you find yourself in a family which is nurturing, thank Lakshmi. Because you have done your part, but you can't control everything, so you are given that conducive situation. Then you have Santana Lakshmi. Suppose you have children, they are also wealth. See, this doesn't mean that you have to have children. It only means that if you have children, it's a blessing. Why? Because there is one relationship that where people find that when, suppose a parent, mother or father, they decide to have children and they have children, this is the first time in your life that you can love that person more and you can give that person very naturally. Your well-being, your sense of well-being for that person is just so heightened. So I lost both my parents, not very early, but they were both in 80s. But when I lost my second parent, which is my mother, I almost felt like an orphan. There is this protecting hand. So there was, because I was living abroad and I was working and all, so she knew she was interested in every detail, where I was flying, what I was doing, did I eat well or not. I said, which other human being is going to participate in your life and in your well-being with so much care? There is no other human being. Your parents.
I have a cousin, they want to have children,
Yeah.
but now they got a children and
Yeah.
he is disabled.
Yeah.
Is this a blessing or what is
Yeah, it's a very difficult question. You're right. It's hard. Let me tell you one thing. Now I'm not able to answer that question because it's a very hard question. But what I want to tell you is my experience. So last in 2023, somebody invited me to go to Gujarat, where there is a lovely place. It is called just outside Baroda. It's a place where Narmada flows. Narmada is again another sacred river. And when they do Narmada Parikrama, Chanod is the name of the place. So, and she was building a school. So there was an inauguration. So she said, okay, now you come, because she learns from me. So I went with her, and along with her came her friend and her son. And the son was Mongolian.
It's the same
Yes,
case in my-
yeah, Mongolian child. So completely. So when I first saw him, his behavior and all was like so strange, and I got almost a little because he had no normal filters like anybody else. Now, so he'll come and stand very close to you, and you're like, okay. Right? And so initially you feel I was a little bit like this, but as I spent 3 or 4 days with the mother and the child, so I was also thinking what the mother must be going through to have a child like this. And initially they don't open up because I had never met her, but after 2 or 3 days you spend time with it, then they start opening up. And what she told me really touched my heart. She says, he is, people ask me this question, that you are with this so-called physically challenged child, so life must be really difficult for you. And then she said, but if I see him, he is so loving. He is so caring. And he says, if I had a normal 18-year-old teenage boy, he would not even look at me. But this one says, Mama, what do you want? What can I do for you? In his own way. And he says, if you go beyond that initial shock of discomfort, right, it does produce discomfort. And then she says, initially her whole mind was, my God, what I have done in order to get a child like this. And she says, over the years, I feel that this association in this lifetime has taught me so much. So, see, it's our mind which categorizes and says this is good, this is not good. But if you have the ability to convert any difficult experiences, if you become a little more subtle, if you become a little bit more discerning, and you make that effort, then what can happen is even the difficult situations you can handle with a lot of grace and not with so much dissatisfaction and self-pity. If we are caught in our own world of thoughts and our own expectations, then what happens is you keep telling yourself, oh my God, why did this happen to me? Why did this happen to me? You're not open to see, along with that challenge comes so many other things which provide you not only, she says, he's so loving that I feel sometimes blessed that I'm showered with love. So these are, that's why my interaction with people, I enjoy. Why? Because I learn a lot. My time is over. Okay, so Indriyartheshu Vairagyam has 2 aspects. One is your relationship with money stands for any object in this universe. And the second thing is relationships. If you are able to be objective, right, not categorically good and bad and judgmental, then you can actually, make your life successful and make your life enjoyable. Right? So that is Indriyartheshu Vairagyam, that objectivity. Om Purnamada Purnamadav Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Shri Guru Pyo Namaha.